Are marching to protest the Trump administration, sending thousands of National Guard troops into that city. It has been nearly a month since President Trump deployed troops as part of his anti-crime agenda in D.C. It also led to a surge of federal officers from other agencies and an attempted takeover of the city's police department. Thursday, city officials filed a lawsuit over the deployment, accusing the president of violating the Constitution.
Señores, Donald Trump ya no puede esconderse. No puede ocultar el tema de su salud. No puede tapar el escándalo de Jeffrey Epstein. Tampoco puede esconder su desplome en las encuestas, por más que lo intente. Y vaya que lo intenta. Donald Trump fue sacado a toda prisa de Washington D.C., mientras una vez más estallaban protestas en toda la ciudad. Está enfrentando las peores semanas de su administración. Y obviamente no puede con ello. Hoy amigos, vamos a desmenuzar todo lo que pasó, porque es que la Casa Blanca está en modo pánico, pero antes de llegar a esas imágenes masivas de estas protestas y la huida de Trump, quiero que empecemos por una de las razones principales de la indignación del pueblo. Jamie Raskin lo expone de frente con el encubrimiento de Trump en el caso de Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, a hoax is a corruption scandal or a crime that Donald Trump doesn't want anybody talking about anymore. It couldn't be any clearer. And I'm glad that the victims were indignant and outraged about that slur on their experience and their advocacy today. There's nothing hoax-like about this. And if it's a Democrat hoax, as he claims, he started it, because he was the one who was saying, let's go ahead and release all the files. And then after he had 1,000 FBI agents working around the clock to discover what was actually in there, that's when he decided, oh no, nothing to see here. Everybody just go home and forget about it. The public is not going to let this go. And those files have got to be released. The real question is to what extent they've already redacted or damaged information in there. But we don't need these retread files that they've been sending over the last several weeks. We need the files they're not sending. Those are the ones that we have to demand.
El último invento de los MAGA para querer cubrir los archivos de Epstein ya casi es algo indignante, ¿no? Ayer vimos cómo Mike Johnson estaba diciendo que Trump en realidad fue un informante del FBI sobre Epstein, lo cual de entrada es ridículo, porque esto está contradiciendo todo lo que Trump ha estado diciendo de que supuestamente el caso de Jeffrey Epstein es un engaño. Porque si de verdad hubiera sido un informante, entonces no saldría a decir que es un engaño. Es un invento de los demócratas. Lo que está haciendo Mike Johnson es preparar el terreno. Saben muy bien que el nombre de Trump está en los archivos. Entonces están buscando una excusa antes de que todo salga a la luz. Pero no les funciona. Lo mismo ocurre con la economía. Tampoco pueden mentir su salida del desastre. Escuchen cómo está en Fox. Jessica Tarloff lo explicó.
And I hear, the residents want it, the residents want it. There's on Kendall Reed, who's a gun violence mediator in South Side of Chicago. We need mental health resources, job opportunities to stop school closures. Send those people in. Don't send the military in. Donald Trump has been cutting budgets for mental health. And as far as the job opportunities, I'm sure you saw the jobs number this morning. A big disappointment, even Kevin Hassett admitted it. Only added 22,000 jobs in August, expected 75K. We had a downward revision for June to minus 13,000. Haven't had that since December.
This is called a red herring. Literally,
no, it's
the Chiron
not.
talks about crime and you pivot to jobs.
I read you something from someone who's talking about the military and crime and then saying, how about we get a job opportunity? Also, that voters went out and they put Donald Trump in because they thought he was going to, quote unquote, fix the economy. And the exact opposite has happened. You can make people shoot others less. You can bring down crime by giving people job opportunities and a better economic future. And
that's all criminals need is jobs.
Right.
Because they'll just stop shooting each other if they get a job. Where have you heard that before?
Y bueno, luego vemos a Trump queriendo manipular los números, porque la economía está mal. Y, pues bueno, no quería asumir la culpa. Habla de asequibilidad, pero en realidad lo único que hace es imponer tarifas que terminan castigando a la gente común. Está destrozando la economía y se esconde de la responsabilidad. Pues bueno, no pudo esconderse mucho, porque salió corriendo de Washington D.C., directito hacia su club de golf, mientras en la capital se levantaban enormes protestas contra él.
We are here at Malcolm X Park, downtown D.C., massive crowd. We're about to march. I don't know where we're marching to, but I'm marching. This is against the military occupation of D.C.
Pues bueno, las imágenes son impresionantes, multitudes dejando claro que D.C. no se dejará tomar por Trump, ni por su intento de construir un estado policial. Es más, él mismo publicó en Truth Social que renombró el Departamento de Defensa como el Departamento de Guerra, y dijo que el próximo objetivo es Chicago, una amenaza autoritaria en toda regla. Pero amigos, no se dejen engañar. Además de su plan de mano dura, todo esto también tiene que ver con su ego. Anoche mismo, en la Casa Blanca, él llegó a reconocer que estaba harto de los rumores sobre su mala salud, que lo querían ver como un hombre acabado. Así que, pues bueno, está planeando este show para verse fuerte. Puro teatro. Ahora mismo apunta contra Chicago, pero el gobernador J.B. Pritzker no piensa quedarse callado.
Because it sounds like you're saying there's going to be military in the streets that are going to prevent people from participating in the elections. Is that it, or it's something else?
It could be that. It also could be claiming that there's something wrong with the election results or the counting of ballots, so they're going to take control of the ballot boxes. And why do I say this? I mean, why do I suspect that that's in fact what they're doing? Well, look at the history here. Donald Trump encouraged people to be part of a Stop the Steal movement in 2020. When he lost the election, he then went out and fomented engagement in this activity to deny the election, and then fomented the January 6th protesters to do what they did, which is attack the Capitol. And then he pardoned them after they were found to have committed criminal acts. And then let's fast forward to today's back in office, and he's talking about maybe people would like a dictatorship. He's said that publicly. I mean, that's out loud. You can go look at it. What about his entreaty that, you know, that he believes he's just making things up in his head, that you know, there is fraud going on that has helped to elect people to office. They just recently asked for all of the records of people who voted in Illinois. They want all of the records. Imagine all your private information if you're an Illinois resident who is registered to vote. And they're going to find your home address, perhaps your phone number, your registration, or how you voted last time. This is all what's being requested by the Department of Justice. Think about all those things together. What is the purpose of all of that, if not to focus on interfering with the 2026 elections, which clearly he knows he's going to lose? How do we know that? Because now he's asking states to do a mid-decade redistricting. He went to Texas to try to get them to do it. They've now done it. Now he's going to Missouri and Indiana and other states to get them to do it. And, you know, we have to stand up and make sure that we're focusing on what the real aims are, and that is to thwart the elections, to give him more power.
You have never held back in speaking out against Trump and calling out what he's trying to do. There are also limitations even within our court system, because even as it relates to the actions of the National Guard, I mean, if you look at California, it's taken months and they're still in sort of the status quo. If they try to keep military on the streets, if they try to use it to prevent people from participating in the process, what are the options at your disposal as governor to do beyond working through the court system?
Well, we're focused on following the law, and we do rely upon the court system. California is a good example. There was a case that was just decided that, in fact, disallows, called illegal and unconstitutional, what Donald Trump did with National Guard in California. That should hold for Illinois also. Now, again, the Supreme Court has said that, one jurisdiction that makes a decision doesn't have any holding or effect on another until it's decided there. So we'll have to go get that decision here, but it's clear that, anybody looking at the law, looking at the Constitution, would find it unconstitutional.
Have you been in touch? I know you talked to Governor Newsom and other governors. He's been through this before, a version of this. Have you asked him what he would have done differently?
My team has been in direct contact with our attorney generals, talked to their attorney general. I haven't spoken with Gavin about this, but we have a good relationship. And the truth is that we've seen what their playbook was, that is to fight Donald Trump in California, to push back, and we know what that is. We think we have the same options and maybe a few others. But it is important that the American public understands what's going on here writ large. This is a nefarious endeavor that he's going into blue states, blue cities. You don't see any activity in a Republican state or a Republican city. And yet, when he says it's all about crime, those Republican states have higher crime rates. Those Republican cities have higher crime rates. So, this isn't about that. We should know that, and the public should know that. And I think slowly but surely, elected officials, Democrats, starting with Democrats, and the public are starting to see that they're going to have to stand up and speak out and push back.
Y es que sin duda los demócratas tienen que tomar esta misma iniciativa como Pritzker, como Gavin Newsom, señalando que las políticas de Trump no resuelven nada, que solo son ataques sin resultados. Y mientras tanto, los demócratas, están intentando producir resultados, soluciones. Amigos, esto es fundamental que ellos puedan decirlo, que le den la vuelta a la narrativa trumpista, por lo menos en temas donde se tiene ventaja, ¿no? Porque la verdad es una: Donald Trump huye, evade, miente, pero ya no puede ocultar el desastre, ni con el caso de Epstein, ni con la economía, ni con su salud. Ahora bien, amigos, también tenemos malas noticias para Donald Trump en el tema de Jeffrey Epstein, porque lo que siempre ha intentado ocultar, tapar con burlas, con gritos, ahora le está explotando en la cara. El tema de los sobrevivientes de Jeffrey Epstein no solo está ganando fuerza, sino que además ahora se está sumando ciertos congresistas republicanos para exigir que los archivos ocultos salgan a la luz. Estos sobrevivientes con legisladores republicanos están empujando juntos por los documentos que, como bien sabemos, podrían estar revelando quiénes han estado cerca de Epstein aparte de Trump. Quiero que veamos de qué se trata y luego lo analizamos.
Dave Ehrenberg is back with me, and we're joined by Emily Brooks, Capitol Hill correspondent for The Hill, Megan Hayes, former special assistant to President Biden, and Maura Gillespie, founder of Blue Stack Strategies and previous advisor to former House Speaker John Boehner. Welcome, all of you. So, Dave, the survivor stories are heartbreaking. Why did they not gain traction before? Why were these women repeatedly dismissed by authorities?
That's what they want to know. They've been ignored, apparently, by state and federal prosecutors to some extent, and by politicians who claim that they have their backs. And so they want to know, why are we being silenced? Why are you not hearing us? And I think when President Trump called them a hoax, they had had enough. That was the final straw, and that led to the press conference. And one reason why you haven't heard a lot from them recently is that Virginia Giuffre, who was the survivor who spoke out the most, she committed suicide recently, and that left a conspicuous void since then. And now, from that press conference, you see that new survivor voices are speaking up, and that's bad news for President Trump, because it means that this controversy is not going away. I mean, you even had Marjorie Taylor Greene at that press conference, who's one of the most loyal Trump supporters, and so it had to be extra annoying for the president, and it shows until they release the files, this thing's only going to get worse.
Yeah, and also Virginia Giuffre posthumously has a book coming out, released, I think, October, November, chronicling her story. Meantime, Emily, look, these stories are so moving. Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace emerged from a survivors meeting in tears. Then you had Congresswomen Boebert and Green joining the cause. What impact did survivors have on both Republicans and Democrats?
Yeah, I think that from what they said, that was a bipartisan meeting from House Oversight Committee of Republicans and Democrats, closed door for over 2 hours. Speaker Johnson, and sort of a show of Republicans doing something on this issue, was in that meeting for that entire meeting. And everybody who left said it was very emotional. There were tears. And I think that it reinvigorated for some, the importance of wanting to get to the bottom of some of this. And I think for, a lot of the Republicans who are looking into this, showed them like maybe how deep things go. There has been a lot of material from the Epstein case and the Maxwell case that has shown, the extent to what they did. But a lot of what the survivors are looking for are the people who were surrounding this operation, who knew things that didn't speak up. And getting to the bottom of that is going to probably take a bit more digging than I think some Republicans were expecting.
And Megan, Trump in his social media rant says the Democrats don't really care about survivors, adding they're leaning on the Epstein case for political gain. But survivors emphasize the bipartisan nature of this scandal. What are the political risks as the push to release names is gaining momentum?
Well, if Democrats were leaning on this, they would have released the files during the Biden administration, but they, have respect for due process and the rule of law because Ghislaine Maxwell was going through an appeal. So they did not do that when they knew that Trump's name was in these files already. But I don't think that there's a lot of political risk here. I think these campaign ads against these Republicans are actually writing themselves. They're protecting pedophiles. They're protecting child traffickers. I mean, these women were abused, and now there's faces to this massive allegation, and there's nothing more humanizing than seeing these women give this press conference.
And Mara, I want to play what one survivor says was Epstein's top brag. Let's watch.
His biggest brag forever was that he was very good friends with Donald Trump. He had an 8x10 framed picture of him on his desk with the two of them. They were very close.
So the White House has said that Trump broke off his friendship with Epstein, kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago for, quote, being a creep. Is this former friendship influencing Trump's decisions on releasing the files?
I think it's certainly getting under his skin. I mean, we've seen the emotional reaction from the president from the start of this, where he was defiant, shifting blame, and now to call it a hoax is just belittling to those women who were brave enough to step forward and put themselves out there and tell their stories. And I actually think with the press conference, one of the most aside from the stories from the survivors themselves, was when Marjorie Taylor Greene explained why they hadn't come forward before, why they hadn't released names before, because of the threats that they were under and the amount of legal fees they'd be, swallowed by from these people who were on these lists or who are friends of Jeffrey Epstein's who, would dominate them in the courts. And so this is where they are saying enough is enough. Marjorie Taylor Greene and others have said they'll read the names themselves and face those repercussions because they want that transparency. Because again, for Republicans who ran on accountability, transparency, this flies in the face of it. And I do think that Donald Trump knows that. And so shifting blame and calling it a hoax is the tool he uses most often. But I don't see it working this time.
So, Dave, what is the significance of House oversight staffers getting access to the unredacted documents this next week? I mean, what might they see, and how can that information be helpful to their investigation?
Well, it depends on how many documents they get access to, because the Department of Justice has given the committee some, but not all the documents. And so of the documents they're going to see, I think it'll be important about the birthday card that Trump says is a hoax. Well, they'll get to see if it's in the file and if it's real or not. But the thing that everyone wants to know are the names of unindicted co-conspirators. I'm not sure if the staffers are going to get access to that. And that's the crux here of this issue, because the MAGA base has been told they will get a client list of Epstein. The client list does not exist, but the files exist, and the names of unindicted co-conspirators are in the files. So until that's released, this controversy is not going away. And so it is important if they get the names of those co-conspirators inside the House committee. But then the question is, will they make those names public? I don't think they will, as long as President Trump is in the White House.
But, Dave, could any of those co-conspirators, people's names, could these people be indicted now?
I think it's very unlikely. There's statute of limitations issues. There's witness memory issues. I think it's unlikely also because the Department of Justice, when the number 2 person, Todd Blanche, interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell, they didn't do that as a way to get information on unindicted co-conspirators. That was a way to exonerate President Trump, and that's why they released the transcript immediately. If you were going to pursue charges against new individuals, you're not releasing the transcript of the key witness in the case to give everyone a heads up. So that tells me that this is not about pursuing new charges. And plus, one more thing, Epstein signed a non-prosecution agreement that gave everyone immunity, even co-conspirators who are not named. So it's going to be really hard to indict anyone else over this.
Let me pose this to you, Emily, trying to get the details of what you know reporting-wise. What are we expecting to happen in the coming week? Do we know how much oversight committee members will get to see, and might they get to see any names of Epstein clients that may not previously have been made public?
Well, the big thing will be this Monday deadline for a subpoena of the Epstein estate. That's where this birthday book that Trump wrote a letter to Epstein that's going to be part of it, expected to be part of it. That was something that the victims' attorneys were pointing to in that press conference, saying that that is where there's going to be a lot more new information, that maybe people could follow leads there that are not in the Department of Justice files that are going to or might be released to the committee or elsewhere. So those are the big things. There also is going to be a very big interview later this month with Alex Acosta, former labor secretary under the first Trump administration, who resigned in the wake of Epstein being arrested in 2019, because he was the prosecutor who originally gave Epstein what was thought of as a sweetheart 2008 deal. So that is going to be a very long and very interesting. Chairman Comer has said he promises to release the transcript of that eventually, deposition or...
Y bueno amigos, ¿qué les puedo decir? Estamos hablando de congresistas republicanos que salieron llorando de una reunión con los sobrevivientes. Gente como Nancy Mace, Marjorie Taylor Greene, que es la fan número 1 de Trump. Escucharon testimonios tan fuertes que, bueno, pues no pudieron esconder su emoción. Y si hasta ellas, que normalmente defienden el trumpismo hasta el límite, siempre defienden lo indefendible, ahora están presionando para que salgan estos archivos, es porque hay algo demasiado grande como para ignorarlo. Por supuesto, Donald Trump reacciona como siempre, pues no, atacando, diciendo que todo es un invento, pero ya esa estrategia no funciona. No estamos hablando de un rumor en Twitter, hablamos de víctimas de tráfico sexual contando su verdad. Decirles mentirosas no solo es cruel, es políticamente suicida. Y aquí tenemos un punto que es clave. Cuando republicanos y demócratas se unen en algo, es porque el tema es demasiado serio para seguir jugando con la polarización. Además, recordemos un detalle que muchos están pasando por alto. Epstein siempre presumió su amistad con Trump. Fotos enmarcadas en su oficina. Presumían esa cercanía, como si fuese una medalla de oro. Y ahora cada vez que Trump intenta distanciarse, termina apareciendo más evidencia de que esa relación fue mucho más que un saludo ocasional en Mar-a-Lago. Sé que algunos me dirán, bueno, pero Trump no es el único político con vínculos de Epstein. Y sí, señores, es cierto, hay muchos nombres en el juego. Seguramente también veremos algunos demócratas. Pero la diferencia es que Trump está desesperado por minimizarlo, incluso utilizando su posición para poder bloquear esta publicación. Eso, señores, no es la reacción de alguien inocente y transparente, es la reacción de alguien con miedo de que la verdad salga a la luz. Donald Trump está en un callejón sin salida, así de claro. Ya no puede seguir llamando farsa a un tema que en este momento ya tiene respaldo bipartidista. Testimonios desgarradores. Y mientras más intenta resistir la transparencia, más sospechoso queda. Pero bueno amigos, ¿qué opinan ustedes? ¿Creen que Trump logrará frenar la publicación de estos archivos hasta el final? ¿O estamos frente al principio de una tormenta que podría hundirlo políticamente? Los invito a que me dejen sus opiniones en la caja de comentarios. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme hasta el final de este video. Recuerda, como siempre, darle like, comparte el contenido y suscríbete a nuestro canal. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.